Econ kids, congratulations. You made it to the last section. As you know, this year's AP test um, doesn't include section 14, so this is it. This section kind of, again, I guess it's a nice one to end on because when you think about where we started and then now how we're finishing, you're going to deal with some factors of production. And so we're done with the firms, done looking at the graphs of the firms, where to produce, how much to produce. But now we're going to say, hey, those firms all need inputs, right? So we need factors, and factors come from someplace. A lot of times it's going to be capital and labor and land. Those are going to be the ones. So as you look at your four factors of production, that's where we're going. So when you think about what a business has to buy in order to exist and to keep on going, they're going to have some land. Obviously, you're going to have some capital. You're going to have some physical resources that you're going to need. But your biggest one is going to be your labor. Your labor is compensation to employees is the biggest thing that you have to pay for. So if you look at that, 70.9% of your overall dollar amount that you're going to have to pay out is going to your workers. So as you look at that, they say demand for a factor is a derived demand, meaning that you need that particular factor because there's something else that's causing that to happen. In the little example over there, it talks about nurses. We have demand for medical care, therefore you have to have a nurse. So demand for nurses is derived from the fact that you need medical care. So as you look at those things, that's where we're going with this particular section. We are going to go and look at things basically like we did sort of in unit 10, I guess. And you're going to have to say, oh, well, how do I find my marginal product? And remember, your marginal product is, basically the difference as you're going to the next unit. So as I look at my marginal product, I want to be able to divide that change. But if I'm dividing it by one, I can just look at the difference between the two that I'm going to as I go to that next one. So if I'm going from my first, let's say, employee to my second employee, well, how much is that person bringing in? The one change now is that we're going to put a little L if it's labor. You're going to put a K if it's capital. So as you look at that, a lot of times, they might even spell it out like, oh, labor, oh, land, oh, capital, whatever it might be, but it's the marginal product of that particular thing. The next thing we're going to do, which again, you've done before, you're going to take the value of that marginal product of your labor. So that value of my marginal product of my labor is just simply taking the marginal product of my labor that I have and multiplying it by the price. Once I do that, and I'm going to get my value of my marginal product of labor. So I'm going to say like, oh, this is how much that guy brought in terms of units, but now if I multiply that by the price I get on those units, that's how much that particular employee is worth to me. So the value of my marginal product of my labor. That value of my marginal product of my labor curve is the demand for a factor in a perfectly competitive market. So what is that telling you? Well, that's telling you that it's going to be a downward sloping curve, just like a demand curve. And at every single wage coming across, that's where that person is going to be worth hiring. So as you look at these particular things here, it's all about wages and the value of your worker. So you're going to hire a worker if the value of their marginal product of their labor is greater than or equal to the wage, right? The value to you, they're bringing more to you in terms of value than you're paying them in wages. Don't hire a worker if the value of your marginal product of labor is less than the wage. So that would mean that you're paying them so much per hour, but they're not bringing in even that much in terms of value to you. You stop right where that hits equals each other. So if I'm paying 15 bucks an hour, then the value of the product, marginal product of that person's labor at that point should be $15 per person. So hire, when you're making more, you just keep hiring employees until it equals each other, then you stop. If it goes below, you got to get rid of somebody because you're actually, you're paying them too much and they're not bringing it, or they're not bringing in enough to you, one or the other. Your value and marginal product of labor curve then serves as the demand for labor, and this is all factors. So it's not just labor; it could be capital or land or whatever. As you look at the curve, then it's going to look just like this one here. So you have the one axis. Now this is the one difference in micro. Most of the time we just put P's and Q's on there. This one over here we're going to put wage, right? That's going to be my wage rate that I'm paying my employees. If you put price of employees is not okay. You have to put wage. Your AP reader, depends if they're a stickler or not. Now granted, we're not graphing anything this year, but that's something that they could knock you on, because when we're talking about a factor, it's not price, it's wage, or it's going to be rent if you're dealing with land or capital. This curve is my demand curve for my labor, or my value of my marginal product of labor. And then what's going to happen is this is going to tell me how many units of labor I should hire. So every single time my wage comes in across, so let's say my wage was here, I'd hire this many people. If my wage was here, I'd hire this many people. If my wage was here, I'd hire this many people. So I'm going to follow this line down wherever my wage goes, or I'm going to follow this line up wherever my wage goes, and that's where I'm going to hire. Are there things that could shift the entire curve? Yes. Changes in the price of the good, changes in supply of other factors, changes in technology. That could shift the entire line. But if we're just talking about moving on the line, it's the wage that's going to cause that to happen. All right? With that being said, you need to find this green packet for this section, and we're going to fill that one in with the next video. All right? Thanks.